Every so often, throughout history, something has come along that changes the way we think about things, like powered flight, or television, or fiber optics. Things that challenge our assumptions about what's possible, and that stand as testimony to the power of dreams, unconventional thinking, and the human spirit.
I think that if anyone wants to know what Alberta ingenuity is all about, they ought to pay a visit to Fort McMurray and see the oil sands industry in action.
I think the Canadians, by and large, should be aware we have an incredible reserve in Alberta. Oil sands is the future of Canada, there is no doubt in my mind.
In 1978, near Fort McMurray, Alberta, a switch was thrown to begin full-scale production of what many people believe to be an impossible, or at least impractical, dream.
It's been a truly great Canadian success story in the fact that we've been able to apply the brainpower and the technology in that's gone into unleashing the potential of this tremendous energy reserve.
Right from the get-go, we had a challenge on our hands to demonstrate that this was all possible, and we were able to do that. And along the way, through continuous improvement, bring our costs down to the point where it becomes an attractive alternative to declining conventional crude oil.
Right from the outset, innovation became the watchword for Syncrude. Entire new technologies and processes were invented to deal with the unique challenges of mining rather than drilling for a petroleum resource. Syncrude's research and development budget swelled into the tens of millions as the search for improvements continued.
Canada is the only place the oil sands are being developed. Therefore, all of the research and development technology required to develop those resources that have been developed by Canadians.
We teamed up with people like the Canadian Space Agency. The problems associated with getting large amounts of information to equipment on the moon is very similar to the problems that we have in getting large amounts of information to and from equipment working in a remote mine.
The latest technologies that are being used in the industry are outcomes of our commitment to R&D.
One of the major breakthroughs in the past few years was the whole development of new mining and extraction technologies, which was led by Syncrude. We laid out the vision of this remote satellite mining complex, which really all those technologies came together with the opening of our Aurora mine. We now can produce a barrel of bitumen for 40% less energy with today's technologies than with technologies back in the early 1990s.
Some of Syncrude's most remarkable achievements have implications that go far beyond producing crude oil from oil sand. They deal with a resource that is sometimes overlooked in the quest for improved efficiency. That resource is our environment.
Right from the very word go at Syncrude, we've been very committed to doing well by the environment. We had environmental employees before we had mining employees, to give you an example. So it's been very much a part of our psyche.
Perhaps the best example of that was our work with Fort McKay on the Bison project, where we actually reclaimed many hectares of land into grasses, and we now support a herd that's somewhere around 280 head of wood buffalo.
That whole herd is growing and is flourishing, and a lot of the benefit that's going to come out of managing that herd is going to go to Fort McKay, the community that's impacted the most.
Even though they may be expensive, these innovations make good business sense. Invariably, it's easier and more economical to incorporate environmental planning that prevents problems before they occur. Without question, though, Syncrude's greatest impact has been on the economy. Since production began in 1978, Syncrude's owners have paid an estimated $3 billion in government royalties and a further $3.5 billion in taxes to the federal and provincial governments.
If you look at what kind of a locomotive Syncrude is on the Canadian economy, all you have to do is look at our annual operating expenditures, which are, well over $1 billion.
The good news for Canadians is over 90% of that money goes to, in terms of checks, to Canadian addresses.
It's a tremendous wealth contributor to the total Canadian economy.
A strong connection between company and community is important to Syncrude. Toward this, many partnerships have been struck with educators, arts and culture groups, and others. partnerships that strengthen the fabric of Canadian society.
Syncrude is known in a number of areas for the partnerships that we create.
From the point of view of the university, from my perspective, the work with Syncrude brings access to a variety of interesting problems, and that allows us to do some fascinating research and learn new fundamental concepts.
These linkages between the artists who live and work in a creative way in our community every day and the business is not new, but it's very, very vital and important to moving us forward in terms of our vitality as a community.
Syncrude turned out to be one of the best corporate partners we've worked with. The Syncrude Gallery of Aboriginal Culture has established the standard of excellence that people come to expect when they visit the Provincial Museum.
I don't know of a better corporate citizen than Syncrude with regard to environmental practice, with regard to Aboriginal employment practice, and most significantly with regard to putting back into the community.
Syncrude is much more than a job to the 3,600 employees and 1,500 contractors who work here. It represents an enduring and continuously improving dream. A dream that in 1998 saw Syncrude ship its billionth barrel of crude oil. A dream that has made Syncrude Canada's largest industrial employer of Aboriginal people.
It wasn't that we set out with that goal in mind. We set out to give the local people an equal opportunity to participate in the oil sands development. We invested a lot of energy and time working with them on key matters like education and training for the younger people and that. And today we're the beneficiaries.
In order for any kind of development program, whether it's Aboriginal or whatever in corporations, it has to be supported from the top levels of the corporation. And that's what's been really good for us from the very beginning, is that we had full support from the highest levels of Syncrude in developing programs that was going to benefit the Aboriginal community in the region.
Last year we did something like $73 million worth of business with Aboriginal firms. So we've enjoyed a tremendous relationship with the Aboriginal communities.
Diversity at Syncrude is meant to be a very holistic thing. Each and every one of us brings something to the party, and so what you want to do is really create that environment where everybody feels valued and can realize their full potential.
You can have the largest and the biggest and the best equipment in the world, but if you don't have the people that are really dedicated and committed and know how to operate it and maintain it, then it's all for naught. There's not very many places that you could leave at the end of the day and go home from and say, hey, I contributed to making 14% of Canada's energy today.
To the thousands of Canadians whose lives have been touched by Syncrude, this remarkable company represents not only a secure energy future for Canada, but also the innovation and imagination that will continue to fuel our dreams and our ability as a nation to move forward with confidence.
Key benefits back to Canadians: jobs, opportunities, wealth creation, a socially responsible company that's looking after the environment as it goes about doing all of those things.
Here today we're Canada's largest single source of crude oil, and we're about to double our production. I've been told it's one of the 8 wonders of the world.